I had a story about my girlfriend being super jealous about everything. And I didn't know why. So I started observing her behaviors. Why was she so jealous? And you know what I found? That
Hmm.
I was the one that was jealous. And as a consequence, I was seeing everything in this particular emotion, jealousy. Once I let go of that, guess what? My girlfriend was no longer jealous. And it seems that literally I was the person that was standing in my own way. And my lack of awareness resulted in this situation because we don't know what we don't know. If
Mhm.
people knew what was them holding back, they could use that energy easily to propel them into the future.
Welcome to the Everyday Epigenetics Raw, Real, Relatable podcast. I'm your host, Susan Robbins, epigenetic human performance coach. This is where we discuss all things lifestyle, environment, food, exercise, work, mind, and social interaction as they pertain to epigenetic expression in a way that's relatable to everyone. So if you're ready to start viewing you as an individual, take control of your life and health, and get results, buckle up. Here we go. Welcome to the Everyday Epigenetics Raw, Real, Relatable podcast. I'm your host, Susan Robbins. This is the place where we talk about everything lifestyle and environment and how it relates to our genetic expression. So today is going to be an interesting one. So buckle up for this one. I've got a great energy on the other end here, and it's Andy Kozlowski. Andy
What's up,
is
yo?
just said hello, and Andy's coming from across the globe. Right? We'd actually tried to connect as almost 2 months ago, and the weather was so bad in Thailand that we had
I
to
got flooded.
right. It got flooded. So this is take two. We are back, and I'll introduce him. I guess I should say what we're going to talk about today. We're going to be talking about emotions, beliefs, spirituality, how they benefit us or destroy us, and some manifestation. So Andy is a Taoist sage, empath, guide, shaman, NLP specialist, business coach. Get this one, meditation champion with over 10,000 hours in meditation, expert in mind and subconsciousness, and knows countless modalities, has crossed paths with many spiritual masters. His pursuit of enlightenment knows no bounds. He blends Western understanding with a diehard passion for Eastern wisdom. He's crossed paths with countless teachers and shamans, all in a quest not to just save his fellow people, but to help them thrive. And he just has a beautiful energy. And I think this is going to be a fun conversation. And I think you may be enlightened. So, like I said, buckle
Look at
up.
me. Look at me. I have purple glasses, black shirt, and I'm about to speak about spirituality. That's going to be
There
crazy,
we
yo.
go. I'm taking my glasses off because I don't need to read anything anymore. So we're good.
Thick.
So to jump in here, one of the things when you and I started talking, you were talking about how we have tools to explore the universe with our mind and emotions, and how to use them and not to have them use us. And that's where that emotions and belief and spirituality come in, where it can benefit or destroy us. So I'd love to just jump in here, and because I think this is going to be a great conversation, and have you just take off and run with this.
So, tool per definition is to be used by a user. You can take a knife and you can use it to stab someone, or you can use it to cut a bread and make sandwiches for the family. The tool itself is neither good or bad. There is no morality when it comes to the universal law of the universe. But when you allow the tool to use the user, it's going to be something to watch out for. The consequences of the tools that we have been given, not only to know who we are in this world, but to experience ourselves and to co-create the reality, are obviously the body, the senses, the thoughts and emotions. The issue itself is with the fact that we allow ourselves to overthink. We are not longer living. We are thinking about living. To illustrate that point, I always tell this story about a great dancer, a friend of mine, and she is so talented. She dances beautifully. And this one time she was doing a show, she was dancing, but out of sudden, she started to overthink over guess her choices, how she's gonna move. She was no longer dancing. She was thinking about dancing. And guess what? She got anxious. And sooner than later, she falls. And nobody was impressed. No. But we need to realize that you cannot do things at the same time. You cannot walk left and right at the same time. And you cannot think and live. You cannot think about living and live at the same time. The funny thing about thought is that it is electrical charge created by the brain to pass information between the neurons. In a way, the brain is like a little computer that operates on electricity. And each time there is electrical charge, it always follows with magnetic field release. And magnetic field release is nothing more than emotion, than those chemicals running through the veins. So once you have a thought, it's always going to be followed by emotion. Emotion itself lasts approximately 90 seconds when it's not interrupted. But when you're gonna interrupt the emotion, it's like having a splinter. If you don't do anything and it's stuck in your head, it's gonna be going
Busters.
outside your hand. But if you're gonna rub it like crazy, it's gonna get deeper and deeper and deeper to the point that you don't even see it and you cannot take it out. And many people call those events trauma when there was an event bigger than us during some part of life. And so they are so afraid of opening that little box where they hidden this emotion. And as a consequence, it gets deeper and deeper and deeper to the body. And then the brain obviously wants you to stay away from pain. So the brain will create layers of the mind. If there is something stuck in your foot that you don't see and cannot take out, as a consequence, you will start to drag your feet behind you. You will start to limp. And the brain will tell you that this is perfectly normal, that this is how people should walk. And in fact, there is something fishy about those people that do walk normally, not dragging their feet behind them. This is also one of the reasons why it's so hard to change, because we tend to give huge value to our beliefs to the point that we glorify them. But the thing is, what's within is outside. What you give importance is sooner or later will manifest. And once it manifests, you will have an ego boost. I was right. There's nothing
Just
completely
validates
wrong
that
with me.
thought, right? Just
Yes.
keeps validating those thoughts.
And the thing is, there could be so many different realities as there are different people. Each of us experiences reality differently, yet we have been given the same tools. So if both of us see the same event through different lenses, which is the result of our experiences, our previous emotions to that event, who's right, who's wrong? Most likely, both of us are wrong. But from our point of experience, we are both right, because what we experience is real to us, but it's not the real truth to the world.
We had the election yesterday, our presidential election. And that would just what you said, you think about the two sides at battle. People chose whichever side based on their beliefs and their emotions. And we're both coming from that same place, from what you're saying. Like, we're coming from that same place, but because the beliefs are different, it's valid on both sides, right? Because of
And
what's
the
driving us.
will experience what they want to experience. This is a
perception.
huge issue, especially when you want to change, when you realize that this belief is no longer serving you. And again, as I mentioned while we were talking before, on the long enough timeline, all beliefs will become glorified restrictions. It's literally like sitting in a cage when the door is open and you choose consciously to sit in that cage. I have been working with people so much that I understand the patterns very deeply, and I understand the challenges that it takes to explain it to them. I actually choose another road since everyone is connected, because to a degree, we are all sparks of this great soul that is using us as nothing else as a vessel to experience itself. So by having access to this universal consciousness, I can clear what is no longer serving that particular person. And truth be told, what people usually glorify the most, heals them the most, drains them the most, and is keeping them in check. And they feel like headbutting the wall each and every time, regardless of their best intention.
Yeah, it keeps, you're saying, just so I'm clear here, it's the things that drive them most are things that are keeping them basically stuck where they are the most.
Yes.
Yeah. And why is it like there's just such the resistance to change? And for some, I work with different health types created genetically. For some, changes, like for me, I love change. I like some routine, but something new that excites me and breathes life into me, bring it. I'm excited about it. For others that are very opposite, they're so routine, and anything that throws them off is so uncomfortable that they will avoid that change through any means possible, so that they overthink. And you'll see those people will tend to stay stuck unless they have something that motivates them to get out of there. But do you think it's coming from more of an energetic type thing that gets somebody out of that, or a combination of that with the conscious thought to stay out of that mode? Because we know the thing that we concentrate on the most is what we bring more of. So like you had said, you and I, before we started recording this, you were talking about complaining, right? The people that complain all the time. And nothing changes. That energy stays the same when you complain. It's a very low vibration frequency. And we just complain and complain, and it stays. It keeps you down. And you're going to keep beating your head against the wall. Am I right there?
There's more logical explanation is what's within is outside. And that means what we experience right now is the result of our thoughts and emotions with delay. So by complaining, you're actually complaining about your mind, that it created something that you didn't want. But the problem is you created it consciously. And by complaining, you're just digging yourself a grave. And the thing that you mentioned before about this, it seems that this is a fear pattern. Fear is energy closely related to the kidneys, but moving that aside, people have different ways to cope with fear. They either try to control the environment so they can suppress their fear. And in that way, that's going to lead to frustration because you cannot control your environment. And that frustration will give birth to fire that will even further deplete kidneys of energy. So it's like a closed cycle. One thing causes another domino effect, and you're constantly stuck in this loop till basically you die because you don't have any more energy. It all starts with awareness. And this is a big thing because you don't know what you don't know. Most of the people that I observe as a control freaks, they are not aware they're doing it consciously. I've been working with a person yesterday, and that person had so many stuck energies in the kidneys that just before the session, that person didn't know. But once the session ended, that person was just sitting like this. I just didn't know. It's baffling because once you release the emotion, what will happen next is those layers that has been created as a result of those suppressed emotions to cope with reality will resurface one last time to the consciousness, and then they will dissolve. And then you will see yourself through new lenses that are no longer occupied by those old energies and frequencies. And usually people have two reactions. Either it is baffled, it just baffles them, or they're embarrassed that it took them so long to see that. So it's two things. people like to think that the world is this kind of school concept where your soul just learns new things, but this, in fact, is not true. It's all about experience. The soul knows everything. It doesn't need to learn. In fact, the God divided itself to smaller pieces because he was almighty and he couldn't experience anything. For him to experience anything, he had to limit his powers. And to a degree, it is literally like he is playing chess with himself using a very elaborate set of rules.
Mhm.
If we are all one, there need to be those rules. You don't remember your previous lives in most cases. There are people in spiritual realms that like to dabble in that, and that's crazy because they get so stuck with it that they have been this and that in past life and it's not serving them at all. It's like you would be so occupied what you ate last time on breakfast, to be honest. And it is very crazy because once you allow that thing to use you, it will block you possibilities of actual growth. And the thing is, you cannot really plan your growth. You can only slow down your growth because you can only interfere with the process. Like all flowers bloom in due time. Everything comes in seasons. But if you force a flower to bloom, it might stop being a flower in the first place. And then you're doomed. Like people have tendency to focus only what they can see with the senses. And there's less than 1% that we consume data from our environment consciously. So it's like our level of awareness keeps secrets from us till we are ready to know them. And if we focus constantly on something external, like shiny thing syndrome,
Shiny thing syndrome. Next shiny thing.
yeah,
Like
new
never being at peace and happy where we are. That's
but we forget the biggest shiny thing in the universe, which is ours. And if we truly understand that everything outside us is a reflection of what we have within, it would completely change how we operate. Because if you're in a bad state of mind, you can only produce bad things that are not serving you.
Just that's the manifestation, right? What you concentrate on is what you bring in more of.
Yeah.
I've been guilty of it. Absolutely been guilty of it.
It's also what you believe in. And those thoughts need to have energy charge behind them, the emotion. The bigger the charge, the faster it will happen. So in a way, we're always manifesting. It's a constant process. The industry is overflooded with journaling, law of attraction, diaries. But if you don't believe in those things, those things won't work. And actually, there's nothing like law of attraction. It doesn't exist. It's a human conceptualization of the universal law. What's within is outside.
So I think, but isn't the law of attraction, it would exist because what you do concentrate on with your conscious mind is that, and that's the energy that you create, right? Which brings in, that's going to manifest.
So this concept, once you as a person are able to modify your life greatly, imagine if hundreds and thousands of people would start to believe in a concept like law of attraction. It has no option but to come true. And it will be true for those people because what you believe in is what you give attention to. And then the energy goes that way and then it comes true. But it is not a universal law. It is a human conceptualization of the first law of what's within is outside, pretty much. And it all started basically with this simple concept that God created humans on his image and gave them power to create, and humans reciprocated and started to create humans. They started to create gods on their image. And we are completely unaware of the power that we have. And as a result, we unconsciously create things that are more powerful than us. It's things that we created are so intelligent, and they only want two things. They want to be used as they have been designed to be used, and they want to keep existing. And many beings that are glorified as entities, angels, God, demons, in fact, are nothing else but this energy that has been willed to existence by humans in themselves. So we don't really understand the power we have. And the power we have is clouded because we have so many things that is no longer serving us. And instead of focusing on letting go of what is not serving us so we can become who we are destined to become, it seems we are collecting more and more, and our vision is clouded more and more. It's like going on a hike on a Sunday morning with your family. Instead of enjoying the ride, you're just collecting rocks to your backpack, and sooner than later, the backpack is so heavy that you cannot continue the hike. And all you can do is sit at the bottom of the mountain and harass other people and say, yo, you need this rock. I'm sure with this rock, you will reach the top. That's crazy.
Mhm. I've written down that we get so in our heads that we miss the experience. And that with the hiking, I'm a huge hiker. So that resonated. That was a perfect analogy to use with me. When I go in the mountains, that's where everything lets go. And I just feel it's just a peace that comes in. And I think that's what, when we're going through everyday life, we tend to get so in our heads and have all these thoughts coming in that are creating these realities, right? That are our realities. Bitch and complain about things and don't tend to sit with the moment of saying, and I tell this to people all the time, and I say to myself, we're exactly where we're supposed to be at any given moment with this experience. But the more we stay in our heads about it and try to control everything that's going around us and control other people and what they're thinking and all, who gives a shit? It's what are we doing to contribute to this? And how do we find that inner peace to
You're
start? So
highly
I love
sensitive, no?
me.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so creepy. This is something I've been working on for a while. Now I meditate in the morning, I meditate at night, which I never had all my life. And this has been really this last year, I've really concentrated on that to be able to find that peace. But it's allowed me to tune
Famous recipe for Buddha.
What's that?
That's a famous recipe for Buddha. Meditate hour in the morning and hour in the evening, and you will become enlightened.
Oh, that I've definitely become enlightened. And it's so eerie that I get a text message from somebody or I hear the energies I'm picking up, especially from other people, where before I'd be like, oh, I get a weird feeling or something. And I'm really getting to where I'm not discounting things I'm picking up on anymore when I'm getting hits or questioning my intuition. And it's so strong. I'm moving towards, I have backed away from so many things and people, especially this last year, that energetically it was uncomfortable. And I couldn't explain it. It just was uncomfortable. And I'm moving towards the things, the people that just give me this beautiful sense of peace. But I can pick up on, I can look at somebody and see, and I do this with clients all the time. As soon as they pop up, I'm like, something's off. I can pick it up in a text message. That energy comes through. And God, sometimes it's uncomfortable. That's the thing. We have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable with some of this. Am I right? But when as we're growing like this, it's
a big thing for empaths and highly sensitive people. And I don't know, but being an empath is actually a result of a severe trauma that we experienced as a child. And as a consequence, we are super aware, hyper vigilant of our environment. To the point that we are always anticipating the next attack. So it's like a double-edged sword. You can use it
is.
to attune yourself to the secrets of the universe. On the other hand, well, interactions with others might be draining. And that is a very huge thing for empaths. And even the suppressed empaths, like when they interact with others, because feeling so much is overwhelming. There's so much stimulus that people tend to be ungrounded. They tend to daydream and all of that thing. So when they interact with others, it's very easy for those people energies to take over. And
Oh God,
people just freeze.
so much.
They stop breathing, their belly sinks like, what's going to happen? What's happen? I don't know. And you would literally do anything to end that interaction, even sponging the negative emotion. And that happens a lot. And then what happens? You go home like, what the heck just happened? Did I really allow that to happen? Oh, no. Yo, listen. I'm going to plan ahead. I'm going to play those mind movies in my head, how the next interaction will go. I'm super prepared. And guess what? Next time it happens, the belly sinks, we freeze, we stop breathing. Kind of like a deer, you know, in the middle of the night, standing on the road and just waiting for the car to hit it.
Yeah. It's been a very enlightening experience, that I can tell you. And I've talked about it on here before in a trauma and unavailable people and stuff. That it's been a year that I have spent. I just turned 59 a couple weeks ago, and no shit, it's a month already. Thank you. I have spent more time alone in the last year than I have in my 59 years. And I needed to do that because I was getting so many different, like, conflicting things and energies. And so it's allowed me to just really come into myself now and trying to not have these thoughts that drive me and to find this peace. So any chance I get, I'm in the mountains. People say, oh, can you see me on Friday? No, there's a reason I don't see people on Friday, because if by Thursday night, I need that break and I need to go be at my
recharge the batteries.
I have to go recharge. And I used to be the fear of missing out person, the total FOMO, where I couldn't miss out on anything because it would be fun that I would miss out on. Now I'm going, I don't mind going by myself. And like you said, you're going up that mountain and it's just like, nothing matters. Nothing else exists. And my favorite is to like a waterfall. It's the water. I don't know. I have a lot of Pisces in me, like just all this water, but an alpine lake. And I just sit there and take it in. And I can sit there and I have for hours. And it's just not even thinking of anything, just looking at the beauty and being in that moment, which allows you to let all that shit go that, like you said, that our minds just keep doing. And then you come back into town, and everything has a different perspective. But we don't allow ourselves. There's the mind.
Yes.
We're allowing these thoughts to use us instead of, I think, dialing into who we are and the fears, right? These fears that just
thoughts are not us.
No, but we create them, right? Worrying is creating something that doesn't exist. We do it all the time.
It's never ending cycle, to be honest, if you look from that perspective, because you overthink and that creates anxiety energy. The more anxious you are, the more overthink you do, and never ending loop until it needs to finally stop, because once you have that anxiety, it will lead to low self-esteem, which many empaths have. And society wants you to believe that high self-esteem is actually the right one. It's the healthy one, but it's not. It's literally the opposite of low self-esteem. So if you're a hamster running on a wheel, here's the low self-esteem, here's the high self-esteem. It doesn't really matter which direction you run. You're going to still be stuck in this loop. When you have the high self-esteem, you would do anything to prove you have that high self-esteem, either putting other people down. And when you have low self-esteem, you have low self-esteem. So that's definitely not the answer. The answer is just to be enough. If you are enough, your actions are enough, and your results are enough. You are enough for what is coming your way. I like to say that the results of thoughts and emotion is this electrochemical, electromagnetic field around us that many times has a color and always actually has a color. When it doesn't have a color, it means that either the person has a very high level that his emotional thoughts no longer create friction between with the universe, but that's a very rarely sight. Usually, it's actually, I'm going to tell you a funny story. I don't believe in chakras. I think it's something humans made up and bring it to existence. And as a consequence, chakras do exist. But funny thing about chakras is they show the level of a soul on which plane it has been reincarnated. So if you have a green color of chakra, of the aura, it means you're a heart-centered based person and your plane of existence is full. And then if you have a yellow chakra, a yellow aura, then your level of existence is 3. And then there's the blue one, the indigo one, and the purple one. And it's all very different. But still, it creates friction with the universe. And the problem is, if you put a apple seed to the soil, it's not going to turn magically into grape wine or orange. It can only be an apple tree. And we have tendency to skip steps in the process. We want to be advanced, but we are not willing to do things to be advanced. And one of the other universal role is duality. And Jesus used to say that the last will be the first and the first will be the last. I like to say when you go very high to the mountains, when it's really, really cold, and you actually feel cold, sooner or later you will feel heat because your body is about to give up. And if you go deep enough into one binary, you will end up at the other binary. This is the rule of life. And if you are struggling with severe heat, like for example me in Thailand, there is a high chance that sooner or later you will have cold and shivers. Everything is based on duality. So if you choose a shortcut, there is only one thing you can find, that the best case scenario, it's going to be the longest route possible. The usual case scenario is going to be, you're going to be completely lost and it's going to take you so much time just to be found that it's crazy. On the other hand, you can use it to your benefit, that I actually do not recommend to no one because this is very advanced stuff. And people call it power of now or whatever they call it, but it becomes so polluted with their energy that it's no longer working. Like I have heard crazy stories about this power of now, that right here, right now, but 10 tasks later, or you're just not following your thoughts. That's crazy. That's crazy. That the power of now is literally you have no thoughts, you have no emotions. This is very advanced stuff. And in the past, it has been hidden for that reason. Because when the adept is ready, a master will be found. And the last part of this journey called life, you need to walk alone. That's one of the rules. And that means you need to allow yourself to be guided by life and allow guide to give you lessons, which if you don't have that awareness, you are, well, you will be cooked. You will give yourself very hard times. And in the Western, we are so focused on developing the soul like in minutes or whatever. That's just crazy. Spiritual people are crazy. They believe soul is immortal, that they have countless incarnations, but they also do believe that they're gonna progress in one lifetime, or like they're gonna meditate 10 years. The thing is, if you're gonna meditate at all costs, it most likely won't serve you at all, because it is a tool. And if you use the tool at all costs, it means the tool is using you. What people don't talk about, for example, in meditation case, if it's going to amplify the state that you're currently in. If you're anxious or depressed, meditation will only amplify that state. If you're going to sit in prolonged period of time with your leg crossed or like under the tree or whatever, It's going to impact heavily the flow of oxygen, the blood, and everything in your body. And if you have issues with it, it is not the right way. In all the ancient arts, be it yoga, which is very funny if you think about it, before yoga had been imported to the West, people were scared shitless of yogis because those people were about psychic abilities. And you don't want to mess with those people. But the thing is, they did spend like 10 years working in the body. Then they moved to work with the breath for the next 10 years. And then after that, they spent time working with Kundalini. And they built it brick by brick. And eventually the soul had a beautiful castle to live in. Now it's crazy. Yoga is just another fitness class. It lost its roots. It's about who has the best yoga pants, who does the greatest asanas and all of that. It's literally lost its value. And what is scary is that some people teach Kundalini to beginners. And there is a consequence to that, which is called Kundalini syndrome or spiritual ego, where the body is not able to handle that heat because it doesn't have proper channels open. And that heat is stored within fascia around the organs. And as a consequence, you're depleting your energy, you're depleting your lifespan. And in crazy situations, you will have hallucinations. And again, I don't know why, but spiritual people glorify those hallucinations. They say, oh, this, then that, I have a channel that I found that most psychic skills is actually a coping mechanism. Being empath, coping mechanism. Being a channeler, coping mechanism. All of that is a coping mechanism. And the ego works in that way. If you want to experience it, I'm going to give it to you. Why not? Because that's how the world works. But if you're going to continue down this road and allow the ego to be driving force in this journey, you need to understand that the soul will take a backseat and be weeping while you completely ignore it. The ego will grow and the soul will diminish slowly. I'm not saying that you can lose the soul. You can if you give it away, and people do give it away, but they are not aware of it. And once you give
People
it
sell their
away,
souls all the time.
yeah, it's like to the false gods, even to entities that they think they're real gods, but they are not. But like, I met a person, and that person was, I'd say, a successful business woman. And she was all about this entity. And I asked her, so what's the price for your manifestation? And she's jokingly, but the answer was true. Her soul. And I told her that this process, if she doesn't stop, she will lose her soul and she will glorify the process, because those people always do that. And sometime ago, she came to me, and the process is finished. And she was like glorifying the process. When you lack awareness, you just don't know what's going to use you. And people learn too hard stuff for their own good because they think there would be value in it. But no, it's actually, like even in Shaolin practices, they don't teach you meditation from day one. They teach you Kung Fu from day one. And Kung Fu is great when you want to expel that heat from the body, when you want to release suppressed emotions, suppressed energies.
Mhm.
It's great. And they always teach you, like, when you do the internal arts like Neijigong, Qigong, Tai Chi Quan, you want to take it slowly. You don't want to push yourself too hard. Very slowly, very slow. But doing Kung Fu, you want to ignore your emotion of being tired. You want to push through. And they teach it in a concert because that gives you awareness. When you do it every day for a prolonged period of time, many hours a day, you need to come to realization that if I'm going to be thinking about something else during my practice, I won't be able to breathe properly and move properly. And if I'm not going to be able to breathe properly, move properly, tomorrow I won't have energy to move again. So I need to be fully aware of the movement, and then it actually builds you. But once Kung Fu has been imported to the West, it suffered the same fate as yoga. people were not ready to use it. And as a consequence, now it evolved into mixed martial arts, where basically two people fight in a cage, trying to prove who has the biggest ego and who wants it the most. And Kung Fu literally hard works to allow the soul to rise through the challenges of life. So it seems like we try to do something consciously, but we got counterproductive results. Just crazy.
Yeah. It makes sense. So really, we need to get rid of the suppressed energies first, instead of
100%. Open the channels with the right.
Yeah, I was pretty just sitting here like a bit in awe when you were talking about the meditation, and how I know for me, when I'm in a state that I'm not comfortable with, when I meditate, it helps to bring me down, doing the breath work, and then it gets me out of my head. Isn't it if it's done correctly, it's to stop everything, correct? Instead of exacerbating, to bring that peace into being in that moment where just nothing else matters at that time. It's just being in that space and just being and finding peace. Am I right there?
Peace is overrated, to be honest. Let's say people tend to do that, especially in the spiritual realm. Like let's say they have an issue, like with their spouse, and instead of solving the issue, talking with the spouse, they choose to meditate. That issue is not solved, and it's actually getting worse and worse and worse. And then it's like they choose meditation as a tool, as a coping mechanism. And sometimes you just need to feel the emotion. The emotion is neither bad or good. You need to understand that. It's just a message. And it teaches you a lot.
People are afraid to feel. People are afraid to feel emotions. You look at society, men don't feel emotions. That's not healthy for a man. It's healthy for everybody, because you can't let it go unless you feel it, right? When you don't feel it, that's when it builds up like a bottleneck.
That's true. But going deeper, it means that a man shouldn't have emotions. And that is very healthy for a man, to not have emotions. In fact, this is one of the goals of a practice.
Is this like the Stoicism? Is this similar
like
to Stoic?
To be like a stone.
Because I've read a lot about the Stoics, and that's what they talk about, is don't react.
Yes.
React, right? That's what they're saying. You have that choice to react or not react.
Yeah. I have an emotion, so what? Who cares? Only I can. But if I'm gonna make it my character that I am a guy with emotion, that's only gonna limit my potential, because I'm gonna perceive reality through those lenses of being a guy with emotion. And in fact, all of us are something much more greater, but we are limiting ourselves because we don't want to feel those emotions. And by not feeling those emotions, guess what? Those emotions get deeper and deeper to the body, to the point where you don't actually see them. And now you don't know why you have this emotion, why you have this thought. It is because you have been running away from yourself. And the faster you run away from yourself, guess what? Your emotions will chase you even faster. Yes.
Yeah. Wherever you go, there you are.
Exactly. You're going to take yourself with you.
Yeah. You're never going to get away. So what would you say for somebody like in this journey, wanting to, how do I want to say it? Wanting to better themselves is just not the right words there. Wanting to start taking steps on this journey to more of an enlightenment and being. What would be something you would say to have a newbie, or even someone who's been doing things like I have, meditate now? Yoga, I hate yoga. Don't give me new yoga. But that we try these different things. What would you say to somebody who's either started, is dabbling, feels advanced, or is just a new person saying, I need to do something to start taking start getting my thoughts under control, because the body, it's going to manifest in the body, and this is what we see. It creates stress, right? It just wrecks us when it's left unchecked.
Yeah,
But yet
it's another
meditation, breath work, yoga, they're all said to do these to help
It's all
manage
good.
stress.
But does it manage stress? People use it as a coping mechanism. That is one of the challenges. You can always come work with me and I can release it for you, and then it's like completely different level. But I'm not good for everyone, and I don't work with everyone. If I would say, it's always look within, because yoga is good, qigong is good, tai qigong is good, all of that is good, but it will distract you from the best thing in the world, which is you. If you focus on yourself and you start to observe yourself, why exactly are you anxious? Is it come with this fear of being lacking, of not being enough? And as you do one thing, it manifests everywhere. So it's not that you lack in just one layer of your life. You probably lack everywhere, but you are not aware. And the more aware you become, your why becomes stronger. And with strong enough why, the how becomes, the cost of how becomes very, very low. So always look within for answers, because you are the answer itself.
Amen.
The soul knows exactly what to experience. You just need to not interfere with the process. The problem is we also have inherited so many things from our parents, grandparents, and ancestors in general.
Genetics.
And we have been programmed by society to believe this and that. And in the end, we don't know what to believe. And if there is one thing to believe in, it is yourself. You cannot go wrong. The more you believe in yourself, the lesser your problems will become. And this is a great thing, because if you, for example, know that you struggle with anxiety, I can tell you that anxiety is the motion of the spleen. It lives in the body, in the spleen, and in the body parts that relate to the spleen. So working with the spleen would be a great start. So there is another way, because you can ask yourself questions. You can work with the spleen. You can work with the breath. But again, it's all good. But if you focus so much on external, you will give the power to external. And then you would become so weak that the life will be able to push you around however it wishes to push you around. And for people that struggle with this anxiety, low self-esteem, it's literally the worst thing that can happen. Everything comes in cycles. And spleen, low self-esteem, as I mentioned, are low self-esteem and anxiety are emotions of the spleen. And there are negative traits of those emotions. Positive traits are fairness and openness. And spleen is related to a fifth season created just for this purpose in traditional Chinese medicine, which is called the late summer, which is just after the summer and just before the fall. Late summer can only go to fall. It cannot become winter. It cannot become spring. That doesn't make sense. And it also means that the energy from the spleen can only move to the organ that correlates to the fall, which is the lungs. So if you have unprocessed emotions of low self-esteem and anxiety, it can very easily evolve to emotions of lack of courage, of despair, of grief. And what was that emotion that people have when you feel sadness for a prolonged period of time?
Depression.
Depression, exactly. Those emotions can lead to depression. And guess what? Depression can evolve into another emotion, because in that cycle, the fall can only go to winter. Winter relates to kidneys. Kidneys are responsible for fear, and traumas and horror and terror and so many other emotions. So it's a never ending cycle, truly be told, because once we are in fall, the emotions of fall will be amplified. The conditions of lungs will also be amplified. So any issues with the skin, with breathing, with immunology system, or grief, lack of courage will be amplified. And that is the best time to work on the lungs because they would be most prone to receive treatment.
Wow.
And there is this concept called daughter, mother, and a child. If the mother is unhealthy, as a consequence, the kid will be unhealthy. So if a person has sick spleen, for sure there will be issues with the lungs. For sure that person sooner or later will experience grief, lack of courage. It's just the way the world operates.
Yeah. Wow, that's fascinating. Okay. And another thing you had said was, why are you not seeking the thing that you've been searching for your whole life because it is right in front of your nose? Would that be yourself?
Yes, the person that either can build you the most or destroy the most is yourself. I had a story about my girlfriend being super jealous about everything. And I didn't know why. So I started observing her behaviors. Why was she so jealous? And you know what I found? That I was the one that was jealous. And as a consequence, I was seeing everything in this particular emotion, jealousy. Once I let go of that, guess what? My girlfriend was no longer jealous. And it seems that literally I was the person that was standing in my own way. And my lack of awareness resulted in this situation because we don't know what we don't know. If people knew what was them holding back, they could use that energy easily to propel them into the future. But since they don't know what they don't know, and they tend to use the shortcuts, they tend to be lost. And people in social media always glorify the overnight success. It can be done, but in this game, for overnight success, for something to happen on the spot, you need to be super advanced. And those people usually are either born on a very high level of existence from day one, that meditation, doing yoga, that's impossible. Like you won't reach that level of existence meditating or doing yoga or Tai Chi. That's not possible. That's literally impossible. If a person has been born like on a crown level of existence, he's gonna be so advanced that he's gonna be literally seeing reality through the lenses that are not fountable to anyone else. And he's not gonna be willing to share his knowledge because he's not gonna be willing to attune himself to other lower frequencies. And he's gonna keep those secrets to himself. And that is like the risk that in this world, the people that lead this hike to the top of the mountain are the people that are least equipped to do so. They barely see the bottom of the mountain. And as a consequence, they could lead the expedition to death.
Wow. Interesting stuff. It's a very enlightening conversation. So if someone wanted to work with you or look at working with you, see if you are a fit to release some of this and get to that higher level, how would they do that?
I'm not for everyone. I have a process to ensure that we are a right fit.
Yeah.
So that's for the back in the first place. What I can do is very easily clear those blocks, clear those emotions, and you will literally see the difference from day one. I can clear any addictions, bad habits that a person have, any limiting beliefs, anything that relates to thoughts and emotions is no problem for me at all. To be honest, I observed something very dangerous that some people start to pray to me and ask my soul for things to happen to them. And I don't know, it just happens. And one of the story that I have recently is I used to live in a hotel, and there was a cleaning lady that got very sick. And she was transported to the hospital and she was unconscious. And somebody started praying to me if I can do anything. And of course, I was obliged to do so. So I did. And I found out that, again, it's false. So her immunology system was very taxed to suppress emotion of fear and grief. And once I allowed the universal power called God or nature to work through me and with me, she opened her eyes and she was healthy again. And it's just crazy, to be honest, because I'm not a spiritual person. I don't perceive myself as a spiritual person. Yet I have been blessed with so many gifts that it's mind-boggling. Yet I am not attached to them because they can as easily destroy me as they can build me.
Yep. That's, I gathered that from the beginning of the conversation, exactly where you were going to go with that. It's a balance there you have to work with. So, well, we'll put your contact information in the show notes if people want to reach out to you.
Sure.
What's your, do you have a website they could reach out to?
I have a web page which is being redesigned right now by my people, which is very simple. It's sageandy.com. You can see some of my testimonials, some of my previous work that I have done. I mostly, I don't really choose how to say it, but yeah, let's just keep it at that.
So it's sageandy.com.
Yes, it's being redevised, so at this moment it might not be accessible, but it should be up and running in 2 days.
Fabulous. By the time this comes out, it should be up and running for sure. Okay. This was a fun conversation. It's opened my eyes a little bit more to some things that I thought we always think, oh my gosh, I've tackled this and I'm doing well, but also I've not thought of myself as an empath at all. And you just started quizzing me. I was like, shit, maybe. And I see what you're saying as as a tool or a coping mechanism. A lot of trauma, childhood trauma, and grief and all that, and how it became there was and you picked up on that, a lot of inherited trauma that I found out, and how I think I pushed it aside as a protective mechanism. But again, that, like you were talking about, I think it was creating safety and everything. I became a police officer, control, because I could control. And that, like you said, that constant vigilance, that hasn't, even though I'm retired, that hasn't left me. I go somewhere, I'm scanning. I want to know where everything is. I want to know where an exit is. I'm super aware of my surroundings. And I thought it was just that training, but now as I talk to you, I think that's probably a very big part in why I even became a cop. Just that subconscious of needing to create safety all around. Interesting.
Yes, and that's a never-ending cycle because you cannot control your environment. It will give this fire that will further deplete the energy of kidneys, resulting in more fears, horror, and terrors. The problem is that if this is huge enough, it will be passed to another generation. And all of us, to a degree, have this inherited stuck emotion that is not serving us.
Yeah, that's the trauma and epigenetics. That's what I work with. And I see that you see it generation after generation, unless you put a stop to it. I had another woman on who we had a conversation on trauma and epigenetics. And that's what she was talking about, is that you can be the generation it stops with. You don't have to perpetuate this cycle. And we have control over the decisions we make there with what we choose to do. So yeah, great conversation to start off my day. So thank you from across
Awesome.
the world. So thank you so much for coming on and talking with us. And sageandy.com. Did I say that right?
Mm.
Sageandy.com. We'll have all his contact information in the show notes. And yeah, get out there, make it an amazing day, and be your most authentic self. Thank you for tuning into my podcast. If you enjoyed this week's episode, I'd love for you to share it with someone who'd find the information useful. Please leave a review anywhere you listen to podcasts, and it'll help the information get out to others. If you're interested in seeing if we're a great fit to work together, the link is in the show notes below where you can sign up for a free consultation with me. So go make it a great day and let your authentic self shine.